Hi, my name is Muhammad Idan bin Suramai, and my student ID is 2024692712, and my role in this video is a senior manager.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Fahmi bin Hafiz. My student ID is 2024287134. So in this video, my role is as HR manager.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Azri bin Azmi and my student ID is 2024633592, and for this roleplay I play as a junior analyst.
Hi, my name is Karuddin Ilbarozi and my student ID is 2024212442. And for this video, my role is HR executive.
Oh hi, my name is Nabil Safi bin Sharul Nizam. My student ID is 2024242598, and my role in this roleplay is IT specialist.
So last Thursday night, I got a call from our CEO, and honestly, just from the tone of his voice, I knew right away something had gone horribly wrong. And it turned out a screenshot of our entire executive salary breakdown was leaked. It was sitting right there in an industry telegram group. Names, roles, exact annual figures, everything just completely out in the open for anyone to see. When something like this happens, the reaction is usually immediate and intense. Management wants answer quickly and someone to hold accountable. That same night, our senior manager came to me and pointed out to one of our junior analysts. They were working from home and on paper appeared to be the only person with remote access to that folder that at first glance, it really did look like an open and shut case. But one thing Asia teaches you is this, that the case that seems the most obvious is often the one you need to double check carefully. Because if you make the wrong decision, if you act based on assumption and blame the wrong person, you don't just risk legal consequences. You could destroy someone's career and damage something that is very hard to rebuild, which is trust in the workplace. So we did things right away. We stuck to due process and we dug up, completely flipped the script. Alright, enough chit chat. Let me show you how it all went down.
This morning, our CEO forwarded me a screenshot that basically the thing in industry telegram group. A full breakdown of our top executives, salaries, names, designations, and annual figures has been informed. That information is highly confidential and protected behind 2 years layers of encryption. So the fact that it's out there is a serious breach. And based on the access logs from last Thursday, you were the only junior staff member authorized to open that folder remotely. Your account accepts the fact, and now that the same file has been leaked publicly. So we need to be honest and understand exactly what happened.
Alright, sir, I hear you, and I completely get why this looked incredibly bad. I really do, but please just let me explain first because I swear I didn't leak anything. Yes, I accessed the payroll file that last Thursday afternoon, but it was part of an approved task. I was updating the Q3 compensation data as requested by the department head. I followed every step of the security protocol carefully. I didn't download the file to my desktop, take any screenshot, or share it with anyone. Once I finish, I log out immediately and the system record will be confirmed the exact time.
With all due respect, that's exactly what anyone would say to cover their tracks. The fact remains, you had access and the leak happened through your account. I have a responsibility to protect this company, and right now, all the evidence is pointing directly at you. I've already submitted a formal misconduct report to HR, and I'm recommending your immediate suspension until we fully investigate this matter. This isn't personal, but I have a responsibility to protect the organization while we get to the truth.
In that case, I'm formally requesting that HR conduct a full investigation first before any final decision is made. And let's review the IT forensic properly to check the exact IP address from the late night access logs and the device fingerprints. I'm confident the data will clear my name and I'm fully willing to cooperate with time investigation.
Look, I've been doing this for 20 years. I know what data leaks do to a business. It can stop prices, ruins client trust, and totally destroy team morale. Every hour we sit in our hands is an hour of pure damage control. People criticize me for taking a hardline approach. But sure, but when the company's future is on the line and the invasion is staring you right in the face, you have to act. At least that's what I thought at that time.
I've been working for a long shift at this desk for the past 3 months by managing client database, updating files, stuck in back-to-back calls, and now this happens. I know how bad the system lock looks for me, but something just doesn't make sense. If HR doesn't actually dig into the technical side, I'm going to take the fall for a mess I didn't even make. Staying calm and asking for a proper review is not just about being polite. It is literally the only defense I have.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this preliminary meeting. Before we begin, I want to be very clear about the purpose of this meeting. This is strictly a fact-finding inquiry, not a disciplinary hearing. Yeah? No decision has been made, and we are not jumping to any conclusion at this stage. As the inquiry officer for this case, my role is to remain completely neutral while revealing the facts from all parties involved and ensuring full adherence to the principle of natural justice. This includes making sure that every individual is given a fair and unbiased hearing, along with a proper opportunity to present their version of events. The junior analyst has already received our show cause letter and has submitted a written response. And both documents will be reviewed during today's session. HR executive, please present the system access log findings.
Thank you. I'm now presenting about the exhibit A, the system access log for the junior analyst covering Thursday the 14th and through the Friday the 15th. The system log shows 2 access time on Thursday. The first one was on authorization at 3:47 p.m. using the junior analysis login, which ended at 4:22 p.m. and appears consistent with their assigned work. However, there was another session later that night at 11:34 p.m. using the same credentials, but without any clear work reason recorded. During that session, there was a noticeable spike in data transfer activity in a few minutes, and the connection was closed at 11:39 p.m. At 11:41 p.m., 2 minutes after that second session closed, and the screenshot began circulating externally. I should also note that the data transfer volume recorded during the 11:34 p.m. session was significantly higher than what the analyst's legitimate 3:47 session recorded. Despite the legitimate session lasting nearly 35 minutes and the suspicious one lasting only 5, that disparity is consistent with bulk file extraction rather than routine editing work. That concludes document exhibit A. I will now hand back to the HR manager and we can proceed to hear from the analyst directly regarding the flag session.
HR manager, I want to address the late night log directly. The 3:47 p.m. session was me. That was part of my assigned work, no doubt for that. But the 11:34 p.m. login, I was asleep at that time, and my laptop was shut and I wasn't using any device at all. And my phone system also logs can verify there was no activity from my hardware after 9:15 p.m. that night. I'm strongly convinced this was a network breach. I changed my phone Wi-Fi password every month without fail, in line with our work from home policies. However, the company doesn't require us to use a VPN for a remote database access. That means my IT sessions token from that afternoon could have been exposed over an unencrypted channel. If that's the case, someone could have intercepted that token and replay it, gaining access to the file without needing my actual password. So I'm formally requesting a full network logistic forensic audit. We need to verify the exact IP address and device identifiers linked to the 11:34 p.m. login. I'm confident that the proper review will show it did not originate from my laptop home or my home router.
That's a fair practical request. As it turns out, we have already had our technical team to run that exact audit. Can we have IT to take us through the forensic findings to form the reports? Okay?
Sure thing. I've completed a deep dive forensic investigation on the 11:24 p.m. login event. Let me break down what we found into 4 key points. So firstly, on the account's credential, we did use the analyst username and password. However, instead of a fresh login, the system shows that it was triggered by a replay of a valid session token that from earlier that happened, which points more towards a token replay event rather than someone manually logging in with the credentials. Second, on the IP address, the 3:47 p.m. login came from the analyst registered home network in Puchong, Selangor. However, the 11:34 p.m. connection shows a completely different IP address, routed through a mobile broadband network and passing through a server facility in Cyberjaya, which does not match the registered home internet. Third, on the device fingerprint, the hardware profile from the last night session shows a browser's agent string and screen resolution that does not match any of the company device assigned to the analyst. This strongly indicates that it wasn't their registered laptop or phone being used. Fourth, and this is the key finding the analyst home router log shows an unrecognized device connected to the Wi-Fi between 10:45 p.m. and midnight that same night. This strongly suggests a possible wireless network breach that could have allowed an external party to intercept the network traffic. Also raises concern about session security, as remote access is not protected by an community VPN, which may have left active session data exposed. To sum it up, the forensic data shows that the junior analyst had nothing to do with this leak. The breach was executed by an outside attacker who took advantage of 2 major flaws in our setup: a missing mandatory VPN and a lack of multi-factor authentication on our HR cloud system. These are corporate IT infrastructure gaps, not workers' negligence.
And this is exactly why natural justice is more than just a legal principle or a corporate formality. It's the key safeguard between a serious mistake and a fair outcome. If we had acted on the initial report without proper investigation, discussion and technical review, we could have wrongly dismissed an innocent person. Speed and decisiveness may feel effective, but without solid evidence, they can just as easily lead to unfair conclusion.
The log, the timing, the access frame, I was so certain, but certainly isn't the same as proof. I pushed hard, maybe too hard, without waiting for the full picture. If HR had simply acted on my recommendation, we would have destroyed someone's career over something they didn't do. That's not protecting the company. That's the kind of mistake that ends up in industrial court.
Alright, based on the network forensic evidence provided by IT, alongside with the formal written response to our show cause notice, HR has finalized its official findings. First, there is no evidence that the junior analyst shared, leaked, or contributed to the data exposure in any way. Second, the breach has been identified as the result of an external cyber attack targeting vulnerabilities in our remote work setup. Based on these findings, there are no grounds for disciplinary actions. The misconduct complaint is officially dismissed, and the show process is now closed with no adverse findings. The analyst's internal record will remain clean, and this matter will be not recorded or referenced in any future performance reviews or HR documentation.
Understood. I have logged into the system and will arrange to the formal closure letter to be drafted today. A personal copy will also be issued directly to the analyst. The matter is now marked as fully resolved with zero adverse findings record. I should also note that the data transfer volume recorded during the 11:34 p.m. session was significantly higher than what the analyst's legitimate 3:47 p.m. session recorded. Despite the legitimate session lasting nearly 35 minutes and the suspicious one lasting only 5, that disparity is consistent with a bulk file extraction rather than routine editing work. That concludes document exhibit A. I will now hand back to the HR manager and we can proceed to hear from the analyst directly regarding the flag session.
Thank you so much. I am honestly just so relieved that we actually stuck to the process. It meant everything to have a chance to show that the facts before a final decision was dropped on me. But I would like to propose a proposal on what happened to me this week can happen to any of our remote employees. The VPN gap, the missing MFA, the unsecured session tokens, thus vulnerabilities are still there. Clearly, my name doesn't fix the system. I would like to formally propose that IT and HR work together to close these gaps. And I'm willing to be part of that process.
That's a fair point. We agree the security gaps you mentioned needs to be addressed. We already review remote access control, but a joint IT-HR improvement effort is a good idea. We can also consider involving you in the discussion to help us understand and the user side experience better. I'd like to support the analyst suggestion. From the technical side, the issues we found, which are lack of mandatory VPN and multi-factor authentication, can actually be fixed without much delay. These are standard security improvement, and I believe we can work on them within our normal deployment timeline. I can have a full remediation plan ready by the end of this week. For now, as an immediate precaution, I also recommend that we invalidate all active session token for remote accounts today, just to reduce the risk of any further replay attacks.
Noted, HR will work closely with the IT team on the implementation timeline and make sure all the policy updates are properly documented and communicated to staff. We will also revise the work from home agreement template to include these new mandatory requirements, so the expectations are clear moving forward.
Junior analyst, I owe you an apology, and genuine one. I can be this with conclusion already made, and I pushed to act on it before the full picture was in. That wasn't leadership, it was impatience, and it nearly cost you everything. I'm sorry. And you're right about the system. This breach didn't happen because of an employee's error. It happened because we built a remote working infrastructure and didn't update our security image. That's on management, that's on me, and we will fix it.
This resolution reflects the integrated style in practice, focusing on evidence over assumption, process of speed, and collaboration over punishment. Moving forward, HR will work with IT to review the work from home security policy, including mandatory VPN, multi-factor authentication for the HR portal, automatic session expiry, and quarterly cybersecurity briefings. All measures will be implemented within 30 days at company expense. This inquiry is formally closed. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So, you guys already watched what happens, right? So, let our members draw out the key academic strengths from what you have just seen.
First, on conflict management style, Rahid's organizational conflict inventory identified 5 styles of handling interpersonal conflict. The first one is the senior manager initial response and exemplify the dominating style. High concern for organizational outcomes, low concern for the individual's right, but it bypasses due to the process and risks a deeply unjust outcome.
The junior analyst demonstrated the exerting type, high concern for both self and others. Rather than reacting defensively, the analyst engaged constructively, presenting facts, requesting for receipt review, and proposing systematic improvement. That is what the integrating style looks like under real pressure.
Okay, for second, on natural justice and disciplinary procedure. Malaysian employment law consistently affirms 2 core requirements for a lawful domestic inquiry. For the first one is the right to be heard. The accused must receive a show cause letter and a genuine opportunity to respond before any decision. And for the second is the rule against bias. The inquiry officers must evaluate all evidence impartially without a predetermined conclusion. Had we bypassed this requirement here, we would have been exposed to a significant legal and reputational liability.
Thirdly, on the work from home vulnerability, research into data breach liability under hybrid work arrangement highlights that unsecured home networks, absent VPN enforcement, and weak session management are organizational failures, not personal ones. When a breach occurs in that environment, responsibility must be examined at a system level, not just the individual level.
The lesson of this case is very straightforward. A conflict management approach that prioritizes or speed over fairness does not protect an organization, but it exposes it. Sustainable protection comes from the building system where the processes is not an obstacle to action, but the very foundation of it. So that's all of it. Thank you.